What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, boss man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the GSD show. Is this on right now? Is that what's happening? There we go. There we go. We're testing some new stuff here. We're on the GSD show. We're testing some stuff. So, McKenna, what is the main camera you want me to look at? Is it this one here? Okay. All right. So, guys, I got a very, very special episode for you guys today because COVID friendly. We have our first in-studio episode since like March.
Tip of the spear, baby.
I love it. And we got Danny Farrar. How you doing, Danny?
I appreciate being out here, man. I'm loving Arizona.
Oh, man. This is your first time here?
I actually came out here many moons ago when I was on the Army drill team. And this was the first time out in a while.
So I want to get into that background. But before we do, let's talk about the front where we're at today. So you currently are the CEO and founder of SOLDIERFIT, which is a franchise, emerging franchise. You're now up to 14 locations.
Yep.
Right? And you run this with Dave Posen, the president, also co-founder?
Yeah, co-founder, brother from another mother.
Brother from another mother, Dave Posen. I've gotten to know you guys pretty well here over the last year, which has been awesome. So what is SOLDIERFIT? What makes SOLDIERFIT different from every other franchise out there?
Well, we talk about our three differentiators are family, philanthropy, and value. And so what I tell everybody is all workouts work. There's not a workout that doesn't work. If you haven't found a workout that worked for you, it's because you haven't found a family. And the reason it's so important, I call it mom syndrome because I think moms do it more than guys do it, but guys do it too as well, is that everybody dies on a noble lie, which is I can't take care of me because I've got to take care of my kids. I've got to take care of my spouse. I've got to make sure these things are straight. But what we try to explain to people is when you take care of yourself, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you take care of yourself, you're the best version of yourself. So we focus on that. Then there's philanthropy. One of the big ways for you to make people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves is to really be more than a workout. And so right now we've raised over $1 million. That's why we're in Arizona right now. We're building a veterans center to serve the entire region in there. And we're also going to end up building a veterans center right here in partnership with Goodwill. And then the other aspect of it is value, is that I am 100% willing to stake my reputation on it, my name. You will not find a better value in fitness, bar none. And when you add those three things together, then you get what we are, which is more than a workout.
You know, what I love too is that you guys are so on brand with everything. So
Yes.
You've got a big military background. Dave does too, right?
No, Dave's not in the military.
Dave
no.
does. So
No,
he
he played college ball.
Both of you guys fought though. Is that how you guys met? I feel like I've seen you both like in the ring or octagon or some video footage or photos.
Yeah, that was the night that started, honestly, Transform SOLDIERFIT was that fight night. But yeah, I had met Dave right after, he just got out of college, I just got out of the Army, and we came out and shook best hands like, do you like to lift weights? He's like, yeah. Do you drink protein? Yeah. Do we just become best friends? Yeah. Ironically, I got fired from the sales job and he got promoted to general manager shortly later, but that's a different story altogether. But we had this wanted to do male bonding for lack of better terms. Yeah. And so we're like, hey, why don't we get on a train and do a fight, and both fought the same night, yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so I want to go on to the on-brand real quick because you don't call your employees normal employee titles. So what are the names, what are the titles of your employees?
So we have, so all of our...
And your members too,
yeah,
right?
so we call our members affectionately troops. It's always in quotation marks. I'm a big stickler about that because I don't want people to convey that because you did a boot camp, you do the same thing as the military. Right. But we call our members troops. We call our staff cadre. And then we call our sales reps recruitment and retention reps, so they understand that it isn't just recruitment, but retention is part of their job as well too. Right. And then we call our general managers barracks commanders, and all of the headquarters is well called headquarters.
Wow, that's awesome. So now with your troops, are there levels of troops by any chance?
No, we actually stayed. One of the things that, I used to be almost 300 pounds, so I struggle with my weight all the time. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so I've got 2 surgeries coming up. I haven't been able to work out in a month, and I already feel like I'm 50 pounds overweight again. But, I understand, and I think that's one of the things we do very well, is that we have an internship program, and around 85–90% of our cadre started off as members on the field. Same thing with our franchisees. And so they really buy into the concept of it. But for us, we focus on no competition. There's no mirrors in our facility. Girls can't come in a little sister sports bra. Dudes can't take their shirts off. And honestly, I found that it's keeping the douchebag level pretty low at the gym.
Yeah.
And so people come in and they feel very comfortable there in that side of the house. So that's what we're really focused on with it. So there's no levels to it. We're never going to see who can do the most push-ups, who can run the fastest. And we're going to get progressions and regressions at every station. This way, it's very similar. Actually, Orange Theory, what their notion of the heart rate monitor, how they do it. You can do 50% and I can do 50%, and our 50% could be different variable numbers in how we're actually going.
When did you open up your first location?
We actually started the company as an outdoor boot camp in 2007. I started it 2 weeks before I went to the Fire Academy.
So that was an outdoor 2007.
Outdoor.
When did you finally get a physical location?
We didn't become a physical location until 2012.
Okay. And then when did you get location number 2?
Actually, location number 2 should have been location number 1, but the build-out was insane in Montgomery County, so we actually opened that one, I think, 6 months later.
Okay, so 2012 or 13 again?
Yep.
And now you're up to, so 7 years later, you're up to 14 locations.
Yep.
Okay. And
6 of which are corporate, and then the rest are franchises.
6 are corporate, the rest are franchises. And we actually had one of your cadre,
Yeah.
is that what we call it?
Yeah,
What your
Cameron.
cadre on our show.
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah, you actually, well, you didn't do it on the show, this one on the show, but you also brought on Todd.
Todd
you did,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Todd wasn't on the show. We just did an interview,
Yep.
like a random interview. Todd's one of your franchisees.
Correct.
He's
Yep.
one of your franchisees, an operator. And then Brandon is a sales rep, not for Todd though, right?
Yeah, he works at the Sterling location, so he works with Harris Sancucci. They were actually our first franchise.
Awesome. Yeah. So there's the episode with Brandon. So Brandon is
He's a
awesome,
stud.
man. Yeah,
He's a stud.
So for any of you that hasn't seen that episode, it's titled 0 to 45 members, I think, or something like that. But it was maybe a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And you can go to loudrumor.com/blog and look for the whole thing. But he was struggling with sales, which normally he's really good. He was just
Yeah.
on a dry spell.
Get those funks, man.
And then we went and did some role play. Then he went 45 sales in a row before dropping a ball.
Yep.
Like 100% close rate on 45 paying members. So we interviewed him on exactly what he did and how he did it. But that brings me to the next thing. The people that are a part of your tribe, like your team, your cadre, they're some of the most coachable people I've met. It doesn't seem, at least the ones I've interacted with, there may be others, but the ones I've interacted with, they seem to be hungry to learn, hungry to execute, and when they do, it works. Like very open to ideas.
Yeah.
So how did that culture form?
I mean, I'm gonna give a lot of credit to you and the guys at Loud Rumor. You know, I've always said this here recently. It's one of the things that we've been working to change. Is, you know, I got fired from that first sales job, and for the longest time, I used to walk around and say, oh, I'm not good at sales, right? I would always defer to someone else. And then I eventually decided to go back into a location a couple years ago and do sales, and I was the top salesperson in the company over and over. And I started to believe that little bit of confidence in us. So what we worked over the time, and thankfully to the training we get in teams and the training that we get in LRVT, and changed the mindset that it's not a luck of the draw, right? This is an actual skill set, something that you can get better at. And for anybody that's watching this that's not part of the sales certification program, I thought what you said before was genius. Like, we can get certified in everything else out there, but there's no college program in sales. And ironically, that's the #1 revenue producing job in the United States,
Right.
but there's no certification for it.
Right.
So being able to come in and have that structure and changing from, you know, we used to do one sales call an hour a week, and then we changed it to let's do 30 minutes every day at the start of the day. Again, prompted by some stuff watching you guys do it, has made a big difference. And the thing is, our team always wanted to kill it, right? But they didn't necessarily know how to kill it. And so now with us going to this and actually giving them step-by-step processes they can do to get better, now we're starting to really see that coachability uptick.
So what are some of the biggest improvements that you've noticed over, let's say, from this last year to the year before? Like, what are some things that you go, man, I should have learned that sooner? Because we've got people that are listening in right now that are you 4, 5, 10 years ago. Right?
Oh man, I mean, listen, the first thing that I would say to people when it comes from, especially if you're going to do the scalable side of it, is that you have to train. You know, they talk about being the conscious competent, the unconscious competent, and the unconscious incompetent, right? In a lot of ways, I was the unconscious competent. In that, you know, when I first started doing the expansion side of the house, and in all interest of all fairness, I was pretty self-deprecating for a long time because of things that have happened in my past. And I used to go by this notion that if I can do it, I mean, this is common sense. Why can't everyone do it? And when you are that unconscious competent, you're like, this is common sense. But it's not common sense. That's why that whole old saying, common sense isn't commonplace.
Right.
It's not that it's not commonplace, it's just you have a skill set in a particular trade that you just don't even naturally pick up on.
Right.
And so when other people are not doing as well, you're like, why is this so difficult for you? And as I start to mature as a CEO, I realize it's so difficult for them because I didn't train them, right? So instituting that training and understanding that, just watching the video one time, that's not enough. You have to go back and watch the video over and over again, and then really up in your game of, like I have a goal now of reading 1 book a week. Being able to continue to do that and putting that out there for your staff and your cadre to see. And the other thing is you start to scale. I've never been a person that likes to lead by the stick. I've always wanted to try to be the nice guy. And it's not that you don't need to be a nice guy, but your standards have to be firm, right? And what I've learned over the process of scaling is that if you let one thing go, it'll become 2 things. If you let 2 things go, it's going to become 10 things. And before you know it, you're off brand. So making sure that you are just absolutely consistent on that branding, on that messaging, and you have to say it to nauseam. You cannot say it enough.
What's one thing you say over and over to your team?
With our team is like, and now the big thing with it is like, listen, this job, and I've held, I've been a soldier, I've been a fireman, those are very rewarding jobs, but this job, it's not about the money, right? I think a lot of times when people start looking at sales, if you have a bad connotation about sales, which a lot of people do, you say it's not sales, you have a bad connotation of it, you don't like bad sales, right? But a lot of people see that number in their head and they're like, oh, it's the money. I'm like, you are fundamentally changing these people's lives. And that's why I hang my hat on value. I'm like, we do more for our members and give more opportunities and more perks than anyone else in the game. So what you're doing it is going to change their life. And we get a lot of people, right, wrong, different. I'm sure other gyms probably do the same thing, but we get a lot of times people that have kind of came to the end of their rope. They've tried multiple things. It hasn't worked. You watch when they come in through the door, they have that trepidation. Corbin said in a call, and really I thought it was profound, he goes, you don't know, you set our appointments to come in 30 minutes early, and they come walking in 5 minutes before, and you're like, God, why are they late? And Corbin really changed my mindset on that. It's like, they could have been sitting in the car for 25 minutes just getting the nerve up to come in. Right. So for us to be able to sit there and watch, say, listen, you're going to change their lives. And the best part about it is you get to be here for the ride. Like if you're a firefighter, you do CPR, you bring someone back, awesome, great. You don't ever see them again. You are going to stay on this journey, and I call fitness a force multiplier. Whereas once I develop discipline in this area of my life, it transfers into other aspects of my life. Then you see them get new job promotions or start those companies and really start to blossom. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to change lives. We're here to make people be able to realize that they can still be whatever they want to be. Our goal is to revitalize the American dream. I went from homeless to here, and I want everybody to understand that
Hold on, what do you mean by that? Were you homeless?
Yes.
So talk to me about that.
So, I led a very Jerry Springer life, as I tell folks. I was adopted when I was 2 years old. I was molested by my brother and sister growing up. So for me, it manifested itself into, I ate my face off. I was almost 300 pounds. And I did horrible in school. I graduated 146 out of 147. And really into my 30s thought that I was stupid. And ended up going into the Army right after high school. I took the first team to the Pentagon on 9/11. I was at the Pentagon an hour after the plane hit to pull security and then do remains removal. And then I did a combat tour in Iraq and did over 800 convoy missions in a combat environment. Transitioned out of it, got fired from that first job I ever got outside the military, which ironically was selling gym memberships. Got evicted, went through a divorce, wound up homeless, bottomed out and attempted suicide, and spent 3 days locked up in the psych ward, and came out of that experience with a desire to turn it around. And so that's my why. Like,
what was the rock bottom moment for, like, what got you to that point? Where were you at?
I had spent my entire life not feeling like I had a family, and I had wanted to build SOLDIERFIT to be a family. And I was going through divorce, and the divorce was, I got married for all the wrong reasons, the whole 9 yards, but still the fact that was just another failure in my life. And I went out one night, and I'm still not much of a drinker. I went out one night and was drinking. I was at a bar, and I didn't understand at that point in time in my life that people wear masks. Social media is prevalent of that, right? The filter. But you're in the bar, you see everybody happy. They seem like they have loved ones around them, and I was just like, in that moment, I never felt more alone. And I just wanted to leave. So I left and I went out and went back to the house, and I just wanted to go to sleep. And so I had pain medications. I was a paratrooper, so my back's jacked up. I started taking some pain medication, and in a perfect storm of depressant and depressants, I wrote my suicide note, tied a knot in my sheets, and made a jump for it. And I woke up the next day at the psych ward, strapped to a bed. And the moment that turned it around for me was, I was in the room, and I heard the door lock behind the orderly. And I was like, I can't leave if I want to. And that scared me worse than the notion of dying or any of those type things came in there. So I decided to come out and make a concerted effort to turn it around. And I turned to martial arts at the time. And that, you talked about the fights that Dave and I had, and I ended up taking a fight. The guy lied about his record. He didn't make weight. He came in 20 pounds overweight. He ends up being the head coach for the other team. And my coach, Master Mike, didn't want me to fight him. And I said, listen, man, I can't promise you I'll win, but I promise I won't embarrass you. Like, people are here, let's go. And I went out there and proceeded to get my butt whooped the entire fight. And I was about ready to black out. The guy had me in an arm triangle choke. And for some reason it popped in my head, you promised him you wouldn't embarrass him. And I got out of it, cracked the guy, took his back, and choked him out with a few seconds left in the fight. And that night changed my life. Master Mike came up to me afterwards and said, you won't quit. Would you like to bring your program into my gym? He had an old funky martial arts gym. And I said, yeah. And I went from, that was January 2011. Instantly went from personal training to boot camp. And we ended January 11th with 11 members and 30 classes a month. And that kicked off for us. And today, the highest award you can win in my company is the Master Mike Moses Inspiration Award, because he didn't have to help me. I didn't have anything I could do for him to help him at all. And that's what's important to me. Somebody gave me an opportunity and helped me. I want to try to show everybody else that if you give an opportunity, you just have no clue how profound of effect it's going to be on life.
So when you're hearing people like Corbin, by the way, for everyone watching, listening, he's one of our performance consultants here at Loud Rumor. When he tells you that person might have been in the parking lot for 25 minutes just mustering up the courage to get in, you can relate to that a lot more.
Yeah.
Because now you're like, okay, I'm not here going to be upset with the person for being late. I'm here knowing that this is a person that I could be Master Mike to this person.
Yep, 100%. And at the end of the day, it really is, I think a lot of people look at fitness in the physical form, and it really isn't about physicality most of the time. It's mostly about mental and emotional. And I think one of the things, this is my soapbox in the fitness industry, I think one of the things that I disagree with a lot of people that do fitness is the glorification of that super in shape person, right? Because what a lot of people don't understand is that if you've never been overweight, like I always see the fat guy in the mirror. Like it's something I've gotten much better at, but I always see the fat guy in the mirror. And if you are, if you're the person that wears the shirt to the beach, like we know why you're wearing this shirt, right? But that level of, and there's this belief that people that are overweight are lazy. They might be some of the hardest working people in the world, but they just don't have confidence in that one area, or that they can try there and get in shape. So for me and our team, it is making sure that we are very empathetic to that. And listen, the name is a blessing and a curse. Like people love the name SOLDIERFIT, but it also, people think they're gonna get yelled at. So we have to go over and above to make sure, reassure them that, listen, this is gonna be a welcome environment. This is gonna be really cool with your friendly drill sergeants, and getting them in.
Yeah. It's interesting, like you meet somebody that, let's say, went through breast cancer, had a parent that went through breast cancer, immediate empathy and wanting to be involved in helping people with that, right? Somebody that, lost a child, immediately like wanting to, just clicking with anybody that's been in the same shoes and wanting to find ways to support that foundation or whatever. And you and I come from a similar rock bottom moment where there's been people that have kind of come in and intervened, and you always remember that. And, I think sometimes people have, I don't know if you ever get this, but do you ever get this feeling where like you wonder if people wonder why you actually want to help so much, and maybe there's an agenda to it?
Yeah.
But to you, you just know, like, you don't even know if there's a reason why. You just want to help.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, people will say, I don't know how you have time. I mean, so I serve as the president of Platoon. My wife is the executive director. She has a full-time job doing, that's why I brought along, she does sales for an insurance company. And then I have SOLDIERFIT. And people are like, well, where do you, and we spend a lot of time with our two little girls, Riverlyn, my best friend, my little Willow Lynn. You know, they're like, where do you get the time for it? And for me, all of this stuff is a passion project. If I were to be honest, like, probably a area I should get better at, I don't really care about money. I know somewhere along the lines I'm going to be a multimillionaire. I don't have a doubt about it in my mind. But I don't do it for the money.
It's not the goal, it's the side effect.
Yeah, and you know, for us to be able to, you know, I got a message, video message from a guy last night that was wishing me happy birthday. And he goes, listen, I don't have anything to give you, but I just want to tell you that you've made a mammoth impact on my life. And I can't quantify that with money, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm a big Gary Vee fan, is like, your legacy. What are you leaving behind? What are my kids going to know their dad as, right? That's what's important to me.
You know what, and I would even take it a step further. I don't know if it's so much of how you want to be remembered by. And part of it is, because that feels like that's the story we all tell, but it's what kind of, you know that your kids are going to be whatever you were. I mean, they do what you do, not what you say.
Yeah.
And so I'm so much like my mom and dad in so many ways. And I don't remember them telling me any of the things that I do. Yeah. I just remember watching both of them work hard and care about people and be there for anybody that was around. That was both of my parents. And so, you know, now when you're working, your legacy is more than what people say about you. It's the constant people that keep being shadows of who you were and then creating their own version of that, right? Yep. But yeah, I think that's amazing, man. And McKenna, I know we have, you might have even put it up, but a picture of his family, because that's another thing too. Yeah. Same thing. When we both hit rock bottom, single guys.
Yeah.
We're both single guys, no future, no idea as to what we would do, where we would do it. Like, we just didn't even know I felt like I didn't know if I had even a place to be here. I felt out of place.
Yeah.
It sounds like you did too. And then it rolled into, once you start doing one thing well, people don't realize when you practice being great at something, you're actually practicing being great at two things. You're practicing being great at that thing, but you're also practicing being great at being great. It's a skill set in its own to like just say, you know what, I'm going to be committed to this. And next thing you know, that same training applies to finding, you know, being a family man. That same training applies to being a friend. That same training applies to fitness. Just why you're not just, you know, successful in business, but your fitness. I mean, you're in shape, dude. You're in shape. Yeah. And you've got a beautiful family, you know. And
I'm married up.
Huh?
I'm married up.
You married up for sure. I mean, because we both did. Yeah. But I would say you've earned it with, you know, a lot of the things that you've developed as a man, which is pretty interesting. It's good. Sales is something that, you know, you say you didn't really like in the beginning, or you weren't good at in the beginning. Later on, you got better. And one of the things I talk about, and you had mentioned it, and for those of you that are watching right now, listening, that aren't part of like Team or Loud Room, or you didn't see this training, because this is something that, it's one of the things we have in our private stuff for you guys. But when you talked about people don't like, it's not that people don't like salespeople, it's people don't like bad salespeople. You know, the example I give is like, if, you know, you take basketball. If you go to let's say you're a huge basketball fan, like finals were yesterday. You'd love to be at the arena and it'd be amazing, it'd be awesome. But what if it was bad basketball? Yeah. What if no one was making a shot? What if everybody was turning the ball over? What if they were just fighting over stupid stuff nonstop and the game kept stopping? Yeah. You probably just want to walk out. Yeah. So it's not basketball. It's bad basketball's bad. It's not that you don't like food. You don't like bad food, right? And music, you don't like bad music. Well, same thing goes with sales. Unfortunately, because like you said, most people aren't trained in sales. Most people are bad at sales. You know, people that are cooking the food at the restaurants are good at cooking food at restaurants. NBA players are good at basketball. So with sales is tricky. So everyone listening and watching, when you think about a time where you actually had a good salesperson, you know, and I've seen Brandon sell, and I've talked with you, you know, you guys sell good. Like you guys, you ask questions, you understand what's going on, you have fun with the process. By the end of the process, both parties, the prospect that now just became a member, and you guys are excited for the first workout. Both of you are excited. That's called a good sale. Nobody walks away from that excited to buy, but goes, man, that was amazing. If only that sales rep didn't happen, because I really don't like salespeople.
Yeah.
You don't say that. So you don't like what you're not good at. You're not good at what you don't train in. So make sure that you guys are training in sales. If you guys feel like you've got a bad association with salespeople, it's probably just your inner, what do you call it? Your inner talk, self-talk, right? Let's talk about your partner, Dave.
Yeah.
He's president right now. You guys, when did he get involved? What year? Is it right from the beginning? Or?
So it's actually the first thing that I ever really sold. My best sales was getting him back into the company. So Dave and I actually started, talk about coming full circle. The company actually started off as DDT Fitness, Danny, Dave, and Troy. And Troy backed out at the last minute because we were all working at this club, Fitness First at the time. And
I know. I don't know if it's a different.
Yeah.
We have different ones, yeah.
But they, we were all working there, but it was going to be a conflict of interest. And so Troy was like, well, he just had a kid. He was nervous about that, so he backed out, respectfully so, no problem. But we'd already got the LLC, so we just kept it as it is. Troy literally just got hired again as a trainer on Monday, which is crazy.
Oh, he's back with
Yeah,
you
he's
guys.
Back now as a trainer. He wrote me the other day, like my boy was like, yeah, this guy Troy Backy, he just joined up, said he know you and Dave. I was like, yeah, that was the T in DDT. Yeah, so that's good that kame in. But, when I met Dave, it's funny because at that point in time, I felt completely bottomed out. And Dave is several years younger than me, and he just graduated college. He, when I got fired, he, a couple months later, got promoted to general manager. And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, man, this guy, and Dave was a consummate salesperson. He loved sales, has always loved sales. And, you're sitting down there, and I was always, even though he was younger than me, I always looked up to him. I'm like, that's what I'd like to be. That's who I would like to be. And when I wound up homeless, he would call around and find couches for me to crash on so I could have a place to stay. And we started the DDT Fitness program, and at first it wasn't a big deal because Fitness First allowed independent trainers to come in and train there. There was no problem in it. And then they eventually got wise, which they should have done, and they still kind of allowed you to come in, but they created their own personal training program. And at that point in time, it became a conflict of interest, and Dave was a general manager. And so he stepped back out of the company. And I said to him at the time, I said, listen, if I ever get this thing profitable, I'll give you a chance to come back on as 50-50. Partly because I love the guy, and partly because, when he bought the LLC, I didn't have any money. It might as well have been $1 million,
Right.
And so he kind of served as a voice of reason, somebody for me to bounce ideas off of. And then, the way the luck of the draw would go, I started the training in Evolve, and we really started to take off. We were just selling memberships left and right. And he had got promoted to area manager, and then that company decided to take the area manager role away. And that was the door for me, because it became, Dave's they say there's quitters, campers, climbers. Dave is a climber, and that became the door for me to go, listen, I can take this to the next level, but I can't do it without you. I'm a big believer in the traction book. I'm the visionary, he's the integrator. And I went to his house and gave the most impassioned plea I had ever given. And kudos to Dave. Dave had just bought a house. And Dave took probably a $40,000, $50,000 pay cut to come on in the company. So, he came in, and then, we talk about it, Dave's kind of the brains of the mechanics. I'm the soul of SOLDIERFIT. So, once we join paths, and boom, that's what it is. So Dave really runs a lot of, now we've kind of stepped back. I've taken over the sales role. He handles finance and all of our lease negotiations and the process side of it. But I do the sales, work with you guys on the marketing side, and then just go spread the vision.
What's your explain to me the difference between, in your perspective, sales, marketing, and retention, like how those three play a role in your business?
At the end of the day, marketing is getting that message out and putting it out in front of the masses. The sales prospect of it, and I love what you guys had said, is, listen, if somebody doesn't buy from you, you didn't solve their problem. And that's what it is. So now I really look at the sales side of the problem solving, right? And retention is simply the delivery of that promise, right? Nobody that's making major gains or losing 10, 15, 20 pounds, and sometimes it's not even weight loss, right? Sometimes that delivery of that promise is that you really did make them feel like they're part of a family. Again, quote Corbin when they say, We don't quit gym membership. We don't quit relationships, right? We quit gym memberships.
Right.
So again, making these people feel like it's a big deal. Like one of the things we do is we do what's called Troop of the Month. We make a big deal about it. We do one at each location. Their next month is free. We give them a nice big wooden plaque. And then at the end of the year, we take all of the Troop of the Months and we pick one Troop of the Year per location. And those people never pay for SoldierFit again. It's free for the rest of their lives. And so being able to sit there and put that out there, make them feel that, that connectedness, making them feel special, that is how I separate those things. And they all work in cohort together for you to be able to be successful. How
important has it been for you to know your numbers?
It's extremely important. I mean, I think that's one of the big things that we're trying to distill now down to, we go back to the training aspect of it. I do planning a little bit different than you do, but fairly similar. What I've learned, and I learned this, again, people don't know how to set smart goals. Mm-hmm. And even if they do set a smart goal, they don't know how to execute down to the day-to-day. I call it
really quick SMART, because anybody listening may not know that's an acronym.
Yeah. Yep.
So break that down for us.
So it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-driven, mm-hmm. right? And the way that I explain it to my staff or explain it to anybody is if somebody comes in and goes, okay, well, what is your goal, right? It's very ambiguous. I want to lose weight. Okay, you lost a pound. Were you successful? And everybody's always quick to say, no, they're not successful. Maybe. Have you ever tried to cut weight for a fight? That last pound is a nightmare. Mm-hmm. So they might have been very successful, right? That might have been 100% of the goal, but we don't know, mm-hmm. right? And so the average person just creates ambiguous goals. Then if you get those people that do create a SMART goal, they don't break that goal down into steps. So the way that I do it is through objectives, is what I call them. So I said there's mission, then there's objectives. And the 3 objectives are like the tumblers in a lock. If all 3 of these align, then you're going to accomplish your mission. And then each one of those objectives gets 3 marching orders. And your marching orders are your day-to-day or weekly tasks that you have to knock down to turn that key in the tumblers. And once you do that, then your goal is unlocked.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We've got people watching live on YouTube right now. If you guys are listening to the podcast, so you guys know, we also are streaming this on YouTube. So do we have any questions, any comments that we want to put up on the screen? Anybody that says anything cool? By the way, anybody watching right now, you can go ahead and comment, and we'll actually pop it up on the screen for us to be able to see. And while we do that, Danny, this has been a really good conversation. One of the things that I think I've liked about your team is that you guys understand the parallels between fitness and business, and you are actually training. Like when you said train, that was the first thing you said. I said, what does it take? Train. And I think a lot of people value when their members do it, but when we do it for business, not so much. Victoria said, what a journey, so inspired by you. Wow, goosebumps. What a story by Patricia. Thanks for sharing. 2 examples at rock bottom can be temporary, depending on what you decide to do. Yeah. Love it. There's a famous quote, and I'm going to chop it up, but it said, it's something like, it's not what's happening to you, it's how you respond to it. Yeah. What's happening to you is very different than how you respond to it. And
listen, I'm actually glad you said that, because we talk about choices, and we've had this conversation, man, and I was actually talking to the CEO of Goodwill here in Arizona. That's a $250 million business. I mean, it has the 2nd most real estate in Arizona, right behind Walmart. And it's crazy because that's a pretty far jump from where I am, but we both saw the same thing, which is how many people, I think the biggest thing about COVID that shocked me is how many people just froze, mm-hmm. didn't do anything. I mean, and listen, my 2 most hated terms are new normal and pivot. I'm so tired of talking about pivot now. But how many people didn't pivot? And they just stood there, like almost like a deer in the headlights. And one of the big compliments that we got at SoldierFit was no other gym hustled like we hustled. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that ended up we got on the news 3 or 4 different times because of it.
I remember that.
And just actually going out and continuing to talk with our members during that time, and then going to the virtual studio, and we're continuing to evolve that with actually building an actual studio out for it now. So the main thing is action, right? Like if it was a bad action, you can always course correct. But it's impossible to course correct on no action, because you don't know what the outcome of it will be.
Right. Andrew Gibbs just said, honored to be a part of SoldierFit.
He's my stud, man. I love it. I love me some Andrew.
Yeah, and Delphin says, were you always a great speaker, or did you develop that? You're a great communicator.
But look, I make this a running joke that running my mouth is what I do best. I enjoy being able to have the opportunity to go. I love to talk in front of crowds. I've been paid to go around and speak before, hoping to get that back on the road after COVID goes away. It's just a lot of times it's not quite the same in a Zoom. Yeah. But I enjoy that aspect of it, and I think that's the most important part. What I used to tell, I'm probably a little bit different than you. I don't know. I've actually been meaning to ask you this question, but for the longest time, this is how I hung my hat on sales. Is like, if you have to overcome objections, sometimes I feel like, well, maybe you didn't do a good enough job on the front end. Like, I take pride in the reality is, like, when I was selling, I don't overcome many objections. Mm-hmm. Like, by the time it's done, I'm like, hey, ready, welcome to, yeah, let's do this, man, let's go. Yeah. So that was a weak point for me. I never had to overcome them. So I really didn't have a great script or way to tell people what to do it. And so being able to rely on you guys helped a lot.
So yes, being a great salesperson will help you not have objections. And then we talked about being a great closer would have you not have buyer's remorse, meaning they come back, they want to cancel really quickly or whatever, or not want to give you referrals at the point of sale, right? That's a difference too. You'll know if you sold them or closed them, because if you ask them for referrals at the point of sale, if they're not comfortable, you didn't close them, you sold them. If they're like, yeah, I want to bring in 5 people, great, you closed them. Those two different ways to determine that. But not having objections could be because you do a bang out job presenting. And when that happens, I don't believe that a sale was earned just yet. I believe that you did a great job presenting, you got a great brand, that says a lot about all that. I think the sale was earned once you get the first no. That's when a salesperson really goes, okay, this is when I'm earning my sales stripes here. Yeah. Right? You've been a fighter. I've been a fighter too. Like, if a guy came in the ring and you landed a couple really good punches right away without getting touched, you just landed them, and then you just dropped them, okay, great. Yeah. It's hard to say, is he a really good fighter though, because you've been a fighter, I've been a fighter. Like, a good punch landed could change the whole dynamic of the fight, and you never get to see what could have really happened if the fight really happened. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But what happens when you get that first punch, or you get taken down that first time? Your ability to absorb it, your ability to counter, your ability to get up or spin that around, now that's really showing the talent of a fighter, not just your ability to throw a really good punch and just, we got that perfectly down.
And even more importantly than that, like, you look at guys that, have never been tested, and they could, they talked about John Jones prior to the Gustafsson fight, or Conor McGregor. Like, those guys were just dominating. And then where people really go to the next level, where there's a ton of respect for them, I always think about the Robbie Lawler fight where he fought, oh man, I can't think of his name right now, but it was just it was an insane fight. Mm-hmm. And those guys, everybody's on their feet, right? What we really want to find in people is grit. And you can't get grit until you're tested. Like, you can't prove it. Up until you're tested, all you have is a theory, right? And so that's what I think is you come in there as these guys, and that's one of the things that I loved about my team last night. I mean, I'm gonna give a shout out to the Frederick location. They did 51 members in September and $48,290 in total contract value in PT.
Where are they at?
They're Frederick, the Frederick gym, Frederick, Maryland.
Maryland, and the pandemic's still pretty, like, East Coast, that whole area is still pretty, like, weird about the whole thing.
Very weird about it.
That's pretty good.
And from county to county to go. But, on, I think it was Saturday, they had 41 members. Wow. So they did 10 members. Actually, it was Sunday. So they came in on Monday to Wednesday. They sold 10 members and did $12,000 in total contract value in PT. And that was Lauren. And it's kind of a little bit of a odd deal, because I'm over here and everybody's putting in, it was like everybody was putting in their close of day numbers at like 6 o'clock. And I'm like, how are you doing this? And I was like, we're 3-hour difference, right? Yeah. But everybody was literally making phone calls right up to the last minute, working on getting the referrals. And so. Is
that Andrew's location?
Andrew is that location.
He just posted 51K in sales.
Oh, 51K in total contract value. They must have got another one in there. That worked out well. I must have missed that update. So awesome.
Yeah. That's really cool. So you've got locations that are already doing the 2590. They've already passed the 2590.
Yeah, I mean, we're waiting on the actual final numbers to come out on that side, but I'm sure we're crushing in there. I mean, the big thing is that with the bringing on of the virtual training program, that has allowed us to save people that weren't going to stay because they did. It's still kind of weird over there for some places, like especially in our Montgomery County gyms.
Yeah.
Frederick, they call it Fredneck, like they're pretty country. Like they don't, there's not a lot of concern up there, but Montgomery County is, it's right next to DC. They still have a little bit of a trepidation on it. But yeah, so for those guys to sit down there and be like, boom, still banging it out and still driving, we're doing well.
I love it. I love it. For those of you that don't know what the 2590, what I was talking about, go to 2590club.com, 2590club.com. We just challenge all the fitness studios that we work with, and we've put together a resource for them to be successful for free on how to increase sales by at least 25% in 90 days. But we have some people that have increased already, like in the first 2 weeks. One person's already at 115%, right, in 28 days. You guys with those numbers are probably well past that too.
I'm waiting on the final number. I'm pretty sure we were up 25%.
That's pretty awesome. So yeah, you go to 2590club.com. Make sure, by the way, if you guys haven't, leave a review on our podcast. Let us know how you're liking the show, how you like interviews like this, because these are some of my favorite conversations. It's the ones where it's like, you know where you came from, where you're at today, and how that's just transformed. You went from a guy that you weren't good at sales to now you're doing daily sales training with your team, which is pretty cool. So other than that, Danny, is there anything else you want to make sure we discuss today before we jump off?
I mean, my big thing with people, I always touch on this. I tell my team, you die in the white space. And so when you look at my calendar, this is a bad example of this week because I knew I was on everyone else's time for the tours and stuff we were doing. But every other day, I have everything down to every half hour has a task, right? So if you don't do that, you know, you talked about this, people working 90 minutes and on the team call.
Yeah, so really quick, so what he's meaning by that, there was a study that was done that shows the average employee actually only does 90 minutes of actual work per day.
Yep.
Okay. Well.
And you run into this a lot of times with trainers, right? Like they get in at 5 a.m. in the morning, and the reality is in our business, the bulk of your revenue is going to come early in the morning and in the afternoon because everybody that can pay you is at work, right? So people come in and, you know, I've heard people go, I'm working 12 hours, and I'm like, actually, you're really not. I mean, you've trained 3 clients and then you watched YouTube and not even like a good YouTube like this, like you're watching the latest movie trailer come out, right? Those dopamine hits and getting in Facebook and getting lost in it, not going into Facebook with an actual mission of what you want to accomplish on that, but going into Facebook and just getting lost in a conversation that doesn't matter, right? So for us, I'm like, you have to assign there cannot be any white space in your calendar. Every minute of the day has to have a specific task. And what's great about this, if any of you, I'm going to challenge anyone listening to this right now, if you've ever said this sentence, there's just not enough time in the day, I challenge you right now. I did this to one of my staff when they first came on, like, so how are you, and the way I lead it was, how are you doing your work? How are your workouts going? Because a lot of times the first thing that goes south when you join the fitness industry is your own workouts, right? And he's like, oh man, you know, just everything going on. You know, it's really been falling off. I said, cool, not a problem. Pull up your calendar for me. I said, looked at his calendar, it's completely blank. I said, okay, take a pen and I want you to go through the day and tell me, fill in here everything you have to get done. He went in, he wrote a couple different things. And I said, okay, cool. I went back and marked every white space that he had. He had 11 hours of time with nothing allocated. But at the same time, they feel overwhelmed. So if you make yourself have to fill out every hour of your day down to the half hour, I promise you, instantaneously, you're going to put it, and you'll be like, I have all this space. And what it will force you to do, especially if you made a SMART goal, is now in that space where you don't have something going on. I actually, ironically, ran into it 2 weeks ago. The next day, for whatever reason, was a pretty open day. And I'm like, well, what can I do? And I was like, well, what moves my needle? My sales team moves my needle. So I called all my team that afternoon. Hey, booked up one-on-one trainings with them, and now that day is productive. It's okay to have a bad day. You can't have a bad week. And almost everybody out there, because they get lost in the white space and they're not doing it, they run out of time, and then they have a bad week, month, year.
Yeah, you want to know the easiest way to find out how much time people have available? Tell them to take out their phones and open up screen time. You'll see people, I don't know what the average is now. I can't remember
Probably
what the
like
average
8
was.
hours.
It was like 6 hours of social media. Between Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, Snapchat. It was like 6 hours a day. A day. That's almost work.
It is.
It's almost work. I actually have, for anybody that's wanting to limit that, I actually have it set up. You can go to your screen time and you can set restrictions. So I have Facebook 15 minutes a day, tops.
Yeah.
Instagram 15 minutes a day, tops. And that's what I have right now. My goal by the end of the year is to not go on any of those platforms. The only time I'll actually have like my EA, my assistant, that's actually going to just feed me whatever I need for the Facebook group, and then I'll just give it through her.
Yeah.
But as much as I can, avoid it, and then just learn through my team, get my team accountable to really learning about a lot of the new stuff that's going on, because it's just a time suck, man.
Yeah.
It just becomes a time suck, and then the days where you go 2, 3, 4 hours and you're not on social media, where you're just like in the zone, you're like, holy shit, I got a lot done today.
Yeah, like when you go to Big Bear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you saw.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah. So for everybody that doesn't know, I went to a cabin in the middle of the Rockies for like 6 days just to basically build out the sales university, the course that you guys were going through. Which, by the way, you like that course?
I do like it. I don't like it. I love it. I
Yeah,
mean,
good.
I've recommended any gym that wasn't close to me. I've recommended them to you. And one of the guys that used to work with us, now they moved out, and they have Wild Style, which is out in I think it's Washington State.
Okay.
And I recommended them to you, and instantaneously they were like, this is the best decision I did. I will say, for the interest of transparency, like, we came to you guys, and then when I remember the very first time I ever used you guys, it was like so many leads coming in. I'm like, what are we doing? And then you just hit that natural plateau thing, and because I'd had such poor experience in the past with marketing agencies, I was like, oh, well, you know what, maybe it was kind of, and then I went to another marketing agency, and I was like, to this day, I told you, I was like, it is the worst decision I have made as a CEO. I've never seen it just fall. I panicked a little bit, just to be completely honest. And I was like, can we come back? Can we please? Would it be okay? Could we be friends? I didn't really dislike you. I thought you were actually a nice guy, but can we come back? So I can't recommend you guys enough.
I appreciate it. Well, I told you, and I meant it, the CEO's job is to test other things. Yeah. And so you did what I've done, and then I've come back to things. We're doing it right now. We tested HubSpot, failed, it flopped. We didn't like the way it was working for us. Went back to Infusionsoft. Yeah. And then now we're testing HubSpot again. Yeah. And my team's really loving it. And what I realized was I wasn't utilizing HubSpot the way I should have utilized HubSpot. I was doing what I was doing with Infusionsoft in HubSpot. Yeah. And because of that, it was affecting my perception of HubSpot. Now my team came to me, they're like, these are all things we can do with HubSpot that we can't do with Infusionsoft. We're like, oh, and now they're like in love with it. They're so I think it's just a matter of, same thing with a workout, right? If somebody's going to go work out at your studio, but they're just going to kind of treat it the way that whatever routine they have with the other guy. When you're like, no, we have people that can help you with learning how to eat better, and we have accountability, and yeah, we have this Facebook group, and we've got all this stuff. And it's like, oh, once people start utilizing it, they're like, okay, you're a lot better than what I thought you were. So that's cool. Well, Danny, thank you so much for being on. For everybody else, please, thank you so much for tuning. Like, comment on this video. Let us know what your biggest takeaway for today. Review us on iTunes.
Thanks so much, man.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
For everybody else, we'll see you in the next one.